All right, all right. Good morning. All right, all right. Good morning, everybody. See a couple people in the chat. Very cool, very cool. Where's everybody watching in from? Feel free to drop some questions in the chat. This was so much fun last week. Really enjoyed it. So I decided to do it again. Forgive me if I sound a little nasally. I battling allergies right now. They're really bad in the Southwest. I think all the trees release their pollen, so I might be a little nasally. Eyes might be a little red. So what I've been seeing in people, and I'll just start talking about what I'm seeing, because I had people that are already in the Primal Edge program fill out some surveys, which was super educational. And I'm really learning a lot about what people are struggling with and why they're watching my videos. And it's been super educational. And I think I've got a lot of ideas about not only how to use the Muse headband better, but how to incorporate it into a lifestyle that is productive and goal driven. And so, common struggles across the groups that I've been talking with is like number one, scattered focus and context switching. So, people are having a hard time getting into flow state and maintaining on task performance. And one of the things that I've noticed after using the Neurable headphones a lot is that task switching just kills your attention. Anytime that you get a distraction, you need to move your attention back. There's only so much brain juice that you have during the day. And another thing that comes up is decision fatigue. So if you're having to make decision after decision after decision throughout the day, there's only so many decisions that you can make in a given day before your brain is sort of tapped out. Whether that's burning glucose or it's creating oxidative stressors and created toxins in the brain that need to be cleared out through sleep. There's only so many decisions that you can make during the day. And what I see a lot of people struggling with, and I can talk about this from a personal standpoint, is that their jobs just put them into this frame where you guys have to be working 8 hours a day on projects that aren't your own. And that sort of takes you away from, your goals and your ambitions. And your goals and ambitions can be within the corporate structure for sure. But I would just love to see everybody be able to reclaim more of their time. And I think that with the gig economy, there's more opportunity to do that more and more. Maybe I'm naive, but I think that the ability to reclaim your time is becoming more and more common. Hey, we got Kevin from Northern Virginia. We got JP from Madrid, Spain. Isn't it like in the middle of the night in Spain right now? Or in the evening at least, right? Thanks for tuning in, JP. So in the context of all this scattered focus and task switching, it's creating a lot of fatigue. And what that ends up creating is burnout. People just feel burnt out. They feel like they can't escape the situation that they're in. And it's making it harder and harder to reclaim your time, to pursue your individual goals and form a vision for a compelling future that gets you excited, that makes you want to go towards that future. And then that results in inconsistency with all the biohacking techniques. And that's what I really want to get into is like, yeah, these biohacking techniques are great. They can create a surge of energy. They can increase your motivation in the morning. But if you don't have like that North Star of like what you're shooting for, how much is that really helping you get through the day? And so that's why I've really gotten into journaling in the morning. I don't have to do it every morning, but at least 5 times a week. I think it's important to draw this vision of yourself in 5 to 10 years. And a lot of you probably have heard of this stuff before, but it's worth rehashing. It's like, what are you really working towards? Is it retirement so that you can spend more time with your children and your grandchildren? Is it creating an online business like I have with Tech for Psych? What are these ideas that are compelling? And one of the main shifts that I made in the last 2 years was instead of like saying, I want to accomplish this, I want to get to 100,000 subscribers. One day I want to, have a coaching program where people get amazing value out of it. I started reverse engineering that. I actually picked it up from this LA influencer that a friend of mine went on her podcast, and they were talking about this, and she's a little she's a little out there. Her name is Natasha Graziano. Um, but I thought that her technique was so spot on, and she has learned from some of the greats like Tony Robbins, Dean Graziano, and her technique is actually writing in the past sense. So what you say is like, I'm so thankful that I achieved 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. I'm so thankful that I have achieved financial freedom for myself. I'm so thankful that I've been able to pursue neurotechnology on a full-time basis and be on the cutting edge of what's happening in the world. And guys, there is still time. Like most of you out there from the age range that I see are like 35 to 55, even up into 60s. But if you look at the way that modern medicine is progressing right now and the way that AI is catching on, and it's not just like general language models that are putting words together. It's like actual protein folding in genetic research and stem cell development. How many of out there have been watching Brian Johnson? Anybody out there been seeing his Netflix special or what he's been doing online with his longevity movement? Kevin, ADHD, anxiety, depression. Umberto, good to hear from you. Excited to be working with you further. Yeah, so you heard of Brian Johnson. Did you know that I met with him like 2 years ago? Right before his Blueprint project blew up, I went out there to visit Colonel in Culver City. And it was still during the time of the pandemic, and we had our masks on. So I, to this day, just regret like asking him, "Hey, can we take a picture?" Because it was kind of like a business meeting, and I didn't want to be like a fanboy of like, "Hey, Brian, I'd love to take a picture with you." I should have just done it. Would have been fine. But Colonel, his brain imaging company, is using a whole full head array of FNIRS sensors. A lot of people don't know that was his company before Blueprint, and it kind of shows how neurotech is having a hard time catching on to the mainstream. So I'm super fortunate to have this niche of people that are interested in it in the early days. But I think it'll definitely catch on within the next 5 years. But so going back to what Brian's doing is like he's got his entire life under a protocol. And it's just amazing to see him gathering all this data and putting it towards, what works. So Umberto was talking about maintain alpha state while performing a task. So the task switching thing that I discussed with Neurable is one of the biggest energy focus killers. And one of the things that we have to figure out to do is maintain our focus for long periods of time. And that needs to be like a super compelling goal, right? So you need something that really inspires you to get that task done. But you definitely can use different morning routines. So I've got journaling in the morning, really framing up what I want to accomplish, that compelling vision of my future, so that every day I'm working towards that. A lot of people in the group they're like pretty advanced. I've noticed from the feedback already. So getting up early morning, early riser, there's some people that function better later at night, but early riser, I think if you can dial that in, making sure that you're going to bed every time at the same time at night and getting up at the same time is crucial, because what we get is this cortisol release right when we wake up. If you plan that correctly and are regular with your sleep cycle, you're going to get this cortisol boost from your adrenal glands right when you wake up. And it's really linked to your circadian rhythm. So that's where the productivity of the morning starts, and you're able to maintain that momentum. And I think that focus gets a lot easier when you're able to do that. Some people in the group are working, they're shift workers. So like either flight attendants or, working the graveyard shift or working in the hospital. And I have to be honest, one of the reasons why I didn't want to be working in a hospital is I knew it was going to destroy my circadian rhythm. And in my belief, from all the research that I've done and listening to Huberman and a lot of the other experts out there, as far as like circadian rhythms and neuroscience goes, and reading books like Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, that's the reason why I brought up Brian Johnson is like he goes to bed at the same time every day, no excuses, gets up at the same time. It's because this circadian rhythm that we have is so powerful. The pituitary is releasing melatonin at the right time, and then the adrenal gland is releasing cortisol at the right time in the morning. And you just get this cycle, this boost that fuels and surges your energy cycles. And when you have more energy in the morning, you're able to accomplish more tasks during the day. That's why in the morning, you're making these difficult decisions because you haven't gotten decision fatigue yet. And if you look at your day, it really should be this design of like, okay, we have these blocks up front where we're making the most difficult decisions of the day to get those out of the way. And then later in the day should be less and less decisions. So deep work in the morning, you're really working. Like for me, it's like working on scripts. And I used to do some video editing in the morning, but I tended to put it in the afternoon. Now I have a video editor, so I don't have to worry about that as much anymore. So that's nice. And I tend to take meetings in the afternoon because meetings are not going to take as much decision fatigue and intense concentration. So I'm front loading all my difficult tasks up front. It's probably something that you guys have heard before, but if you look at the actual physiology of how your body is working with that circadian rhythm and the cortisol boost first thing in the morning, that's how I like to design my day. It's kind of like a 30,000 foot overview. And in the Primal Edge program, we're going to be like going deep. Like, how do you actually like block out your time? How do you actually structure your day according to your biology and get that going? If you look at what the Muse headband is doing with peak alpha, it's really measuring this this metric called peak alpha, which is in the 8 to 12 hertz range, and where that alpha level is, it does correspond with age. So there's a bit of a kind of like age related metric. You know, you can see how you compare to people in your age group, but also, you know, if you wanted like a 20-year-old brain, you're going to have a higher peak alpha. And what I can see after doing all these Muse sessions and measuring my Muse is that peak alpha really does correlate with like, what time did you get up in the morning? What time did you go to bed the night before? Did you do cold plunge in the morning? Just spikes my my peak alpha like crazy. It doesn't work for everybody and it doesn't work every time, but the trends are definitely there. Lee Nash, when I'm using my Muse, focusing on birds, it produces a lot of birds, and focusing on my breath doesn't work for me. So you're focusing on listening to the birds. Well, the thing with like the Muse headband is that it's potentially, it's sorry, the right word is partially tracking attention, right? So if the birds are more engaging and interesting to you, sometimes that works better than people that are watching their breath. But if you saw in the video that I put out this weekend, sometimes when people watch their breath, what happens is they're actually engaging their visual centers, which you don't want to do during the Muse meditation. If you're engaging your visual centers and you're watching your breath, what you're doing is actually decreasing alpha because of alpha blocking, right? If we open our eyes, alpha goes down. If we visualize, alpha goes down. If you watch your breath, alpha goes down. So instead of watching your breath, become the breath. Feel the sensations of the breath and become a third party observer. Or sorry, don't become a third party observer because then you're watching the breath. You want to become the breath. So be there in the moment with the breath. And I think that that will work better during your Muse meditation session. I'm going to butcher your name. Sorry. Mundouglas? Pliskus. Hi, what are your thoughts on so-called pragmatic clinical trials for regulatory approval of different devices as medical devices for certain indications? Any ideas on research groups here? There's a lot of different things that there's a lot of different caveats to that. I think that pretty soon we're going to start seeing devices approved for sleep tracking because we know these devices for sleep tracking are as accurate or even more accurate in some cases for diagnosing things like sleep apnea than the polysomnography tests that are done. The fact that you can do it at home and not have to go into a clinic and get hooked up to a bunch of EEG leads and have your, you know, you ever see those pictures of people that go in and do sleep study, or anybody in this chat done a sleep study before? It's like they expect you to just be able to sleep hooked up to all these cords. So that's one thing that's going to happen real quick, I think, is some wearables are going to get approved for sleep tracking. And it just depends on the indication. I think that there's different trials going on for electrical stimulation for depression treatment. There's different trials going on for light flickers like Neurovisor. MIT isn't using Neurovisor themselves. They actually created their own 40 hertz stimulation device called Cognito that in rat models is actually turning on the immune system of the rat brain, which is clearing out amyloid plaques and tau tangles, which are associated with Alzheimer's dementia. So you'd have to be like more specific. There's so much going on that I could talk about that for like 2 hours straight. iPad using low energy 5.3 max. I'm kind of lost on. Oh, do you think that many Muse too? Do you think it's worth purchasing the new Muse Athena? If you have both Mendy and Muse 2 right now, I would keep using those for a little while. The thing about Mendy is yeah, Muse S Athena has FNIRS blood flow tracking, but Mendy is cheaper. And Mendy, the hardware, from my standpoint, isn't dramatically different. The hardware is still using continuous FNIRS, which is a continuous red light that's tracking blood flow and oxygenation through what's called the Beer-Lambert law. And honestly, the Mendy app is more built out for the focus training than the Muse S Athena is right now. Muse S Athena has one training app, which is interesting, but they need to continue to gather data. It's all still so new. FNIRS focus training is still so new. So I think that if you still have Mendy and Muse 2, I think you can continue training with both of those and not necessarily have to get the Muse S Athena. So, another part of this is incorporating the neurofeedback devices into your morning routine. And I know that's difficult for people that have jobs that they need to get to every day. Even sometimes for me, because my schedule's really flexible, I can incorporate these devices into my morning routine better. It takes dedication to carve out that time. And I think that one thing that can be motivating is tracking these peak alpha levels and seeing how they correlate with sleep and different biohacking techniques like I've been using. For a refresher on videos that I've done recently, I found that the cold plunge surged my peak alpha. And I noticed that if I do cold plunge first thing in the morning, it results in this big cortisol dump. And as a result, I just have so much more focus throughout the day. Sauna really makes me tired, which is why I like to do it at the end of the day to help me wind down for sleep. And then as far as nootropics go, there's a couple of different ones out there. I've actually had a lot of them reaching out to me after they've seen the Alpha Brain and Magic Mind video because they want me to, do they want me to make videos about their nootropics. But from what I've seen, Magic Mind works the best for me. I'm not sure if it has if it's because it's got the green tea component in there that helps maintain anxiety in context of stimulating your brain through not only caffeine but the green tea extract. But it doesn't make me jittery as much as the Alpha Brain does, so that's kind of nice, and it does reflect in the peak alpha levels for some reason. Gianluca, hey, from New York. Could you mention again what sort of study device is helping to switch on the brain immune system? Perhaps I can find more information. Yes, take a look at my Neurovisor videos. If you go on YouTube, I have 3 different Neurovisor videos, and I tried to talk about that concept on every one of them. So the videos that I'm talking about even if you look at the first Neurovisor video, the psychedelic microdose light, it was published on June 26th. If you look at my channel, you can see me talking about that. And then I did a follow-up video, Neurovisor light and sound device, 1 month review versus Roxiba and Brain Tap. That's on July 7th of 24. Guys, excuse me, I have to blow my nose. This is getting ridiculous. These allergies are killing me. There you go, a Cody Roll nose blow live stream. Anybody else dying from allergies right now? I have never experienced this bad of allergies in the Southwest. It's just been super dry and windy. Good timing for this live stream, really. Gianluca's got allergies today too. Oh man, killing me. All right, so we talked about, scattered focus and context switching, burnout recovery, resilience building. These are all things that I'm working on with people in my group that I'm calling the Primal Edge Challenge. We want to get back to that primal feeling of that, like you're chasing your goals, that you're like motivated, that you're accomplishing things, and getting that winner's mentality momentum. For those of you who've read The Winner Effect, that's some biological stuff. Has anybody read The Winner Effect before? That's an amazing concept and book for those of you that haven't had. Anybody read the Winner Effect? Comment in the chat. It's by Ian Robertson. So the winner effect is this concept where the more wins that you get, the more that it actually releases dopamine in your brain, which enhances focus. So another part of what we're going to be working on is getting quick wins early in the day to build momentum, because as you win, that creates more dopamine in the brain and that increases your focus, right? So it's this whole strategy of structuring your day, task by task. Are you burning out from decision fatigue? Are you able to structure your day in a way that you're taking advantage of the winner effect and building dopamine throughout the day and accomplishing more and more tasks? Do you have a North Star that you're shooting for? Another thing that I'm seeing with people is that we're so scattered. There's so much going on and so many opportunities that it's hard to focus on like one main goal. And I'm guilty of it myself. If you've watched the channel over the last couple of years, it's been like, oh, I'm going to check out, sending thoughts from the took a bunch of antihistamines today, guys. Struggling a little bit. So what I was doing was sending thoughts to ChatGPT through the neuroscience devices. And I had a programmer working with me to do that. And that was great. It was super interesting. But it was through Neurosity. So we're using Neurosity, which is a great device in doing things like Neuralink is trying to do, which is like move mouse cursors with your mind or send commands through like imagining jumping jacks or like pinching your left hand. But the issue with that is that like it's interesting, but there's not as much applicability to people. So it's more like an entertainment value. And like some of those videos went clear over 30,000 views, which was, pretty exciting. But at the same time, it's like, is this really helping people in their daily lives? And I think that's why Muse and Mendy, for example, have been a lot more successful in delivering value for, things like focus and tracking, your cognitive abilities through things like peak alpha. So I've had my own left and right veering all over the map, even with a niche as narrow as Neurotech. But being able to filter out that noise and actually seeing what people are interested in, and to be frank, what people are willing to pay money to work with you on. It's like the health aspects of Neurotech, I think, are what's really going to bring it to the forefront. That's what people are most interested in doing right now. And so what I'm working on is incorporating those neurotech tools into a daily routine that makes sense, that you have data from, because if you're collecting data every day with these routines, you can really see hey, where's my peak alpha today? How well were my Mendy scores? And they respond to like how well you've gotten sleep or, all these different variables. They're hard to tease out, but there's definite trends there. Oliver, about alpha peak, you mentioned scores around 10 hertz and even higher after cold plunge. I got scores 8.6 to 8.8 hertz, still categorized as optimal or excellent by the app. What are good scores? So this is science that we're still trying to figure out, right? Um, Oliver, what's your age? Not to call you out, but I'd be curious what your age is. Because it can 51. Okay. So we're gonna have more and more metrics for peak alpha age, but MindLift just gave me this amazing data. See if I can pull it up really quick. You can actually see how peak alpha, because for those of you that don't know, MindLift is third-party company. They're not Muse, but they're using Muse exclusively to do neurofeedback training. I used to do that primarily with my clients like 2 years ago, but it's very labor intensive and great value. I'll do it like one-on-one clients sometimes still, but um, I'm getting more interested in this. Structuring daily routines that actually reflect improvements in the data and using Muse more as a stethoscope as less than like a panacea of like fixing mental health issues. Let me see if I can pull up the mind lift chart. I've got it here. I'll share this. This is wild. And they got this from like 10,000 people. And this is what we're going to see in the Neurotech devices soon. They're all compiling their own data sets. So what we'll be able to see is how these peak alpha levels vary with age. They even vary with gender. And that was something that was really interesting as well. The CEO of MindLift is Aziz, and he was talking about how peak alpha actually peaks in males sooner than it does females. So if you're looking at this scale, at 51, sort of kind of the average that they were seeing was like 9.7, which was pretty close to what you were talking about, right, Olivier? Oh, you were down at 8.6 or 8.8. Kevin, yeah, you can see with this graph what MindLift has been seeing. I need to put this in a video. Aziz just showed this to me last week. So it looks like there's a lot of interest with where people fall into this graph. Me at 37 should be about 9.7. So I tend to be above average. I'm usually up in the tens. So I guess that's that's a marketing thing that I can use to say my peak alpha levels are higher than my average age. But it's true. Like I'm definitely taking care of myself. I might be suffering from allergies today, but I tend to go to bed and wake up at the same times. I've got a good productive schedule. I've got control over my time, which is huge, which we're actually going to talk about quite a bit in the uh, the Primal Edge Challenge because it's such a key component. I want to help people, get through with the life structure that they have. And there's a lot of tools to do that. But one of the best things is to restructure things so that you do not have to like use willpower just to get through every day. Oscar 42. Hi from Bogota, Colombia, South America. Thanks for your videos. Thank you for watching, Oscar. Very cool. Glad you could join. So you guys can see the levels there of peak alpha. They're calling it alpha peak, branded in the Muse headband. So if anything, it shows you where the average is so that you can try to improve from the average. Ariel Garten told me that she was averaging like 11 hertz, which I was really impressed. And she's like, yeah, the meditation with Muse has really helped. For those of you that don't know, Ariel Garten's the founder of Muse Headband. So that's what she was telling me where her peak alpha levels were at. Can we use a brain sensor for Minecraft input? Asked Patri Patel. Minecraft input. Probably look into Neurosity for that. Olivia, sleep meditation, yes, but also some techniques that I talk about in the Primal Edge program. Just a little pitch there. We're going to be doing cold plunge. There's a lot of other things in diet that I've been getting really into that I think are having some effect. I think that I think the gig is up on fluoride, guys. Huberman just came out with an episode last week. They shouldn't be putting this fluoride in our water. And I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist because, back a couple of years ago, the main argument against fluoride was like it's calcifying your pineal gland and that blocks your third eye and that limits your spiritual ascension and ability to meditate. I'm like, okay, well, that's all well and good, but, the pineal gland has a normal level of calcification throughout age. How can we tell if fluoride is affecting that? And then scientifically, how can you show that it's inhibiting people's spiritual ascension? And as much as I love talking about meditation and enlightenment, that type of thing, it's hard to prove scientifically. But if you guys haven't seen the Huberman episode on fluoride, I encourage you to watch it. And there's some clips on there there's some clips on YouTube that are only like 20 minutes long. So he was talking to this dentist that's an expert on fluoride. And part of the discussion was, yes, it's good for your teeth, but at the same time, it should be, first of all, applied topically through toothpaste. That's where it's going to have the most effect. And ingesting it systemically probably isn't good for you. We know at higher concentration levels, it can be toxic. So they're putting smaller concentration levels in the water supply in the States. So what is that doing to you? And I did a whole deep dive, and that video is coming out this week. But one of the issues with fluoride is that it competes with iodine to create thyroid hormone. So you can actually get some level of hypothyroidism, meaning low thyroid, by these fluoride levels being in your water. And what does that affect? Attention, motivation, energy levels. It gets incorporated into your bones. So there's a mineral called hydroxyapatite that's in your bones, which is in your teeth as well, that the fluoride replaces. So yeah, it's getting into your teeth, but it's also getting into your bones. And then it actually can have some effect over your neurotransmitters. So it's promoting more glutamate instead of GABA, which can lead to increased anxiety levels. So I'm installing a reverse osmosis in my house. Like, I've had enough. I don't want any more fluoride in my water. And also these levels of microplastics are really concerning too. If you guys haven't seen that on some scientific studies that have been coming out, they did Nature in 2025. Nature, one of the most highly regarded scientific magazines and journals there is, published a study where they did autopsy tissue samples, and they found that people that they found 10 times more microplastics in autopsy samples of people now than in 2016. So the problem's getting worse. And the most concerning finding was that people with dementia had 10 times the amount of plastic in their brains than the people that didn't have dementia in life. So there's a correlation between dementia and the microplastics. The issue with the microplastics is that not only are they lodging themselves in our tissues, to include our brain, they found 30 times higher levels of microplastics in our brains than in our bodies on these autopsies. These microplastics can actually mimic estrogen. So they're activating estrogen receptors, and they're getting in the way of testosterone. And women have testosterone too. It's not just men. one of the things that testosterone does for you is make effort enjoyable. So if you're exerting effort and you feel pleasure from that, and there's a lot of dopamine released from that, testosterone can really amp that up. So if you get these microplastics in your water and ingest them through your food, so there's a lot of practical things that you can do to limit this. You shouldn't be cutting your food on plastic cutting boards. You shouldn't be heating up food in plastic Tupperware that you put in your microwave because the plastic will leach into the food, and then you eat the food. You shouldn't be drinking from plastic water bottles. That's why I'm using, now like stainless steel drink cups and getting plastics out of my life. So there's all these environmental factors that I think are actually inhibiting our cognition, and we're not quite aware of it. Another personal vendetta that I have undertook is getting rid of seed oils. Now, I know that's controversial, but I, to my gut, think that seed oils are inflammatory. They're not supposed to be eaten. I think that if you're going to use oils to cook in, then avocado oil or coconut oil, you want to have the right omega 3 to omega 6 ratio in your consumption. And the problem with like sunflower oil and canola oil, vegetable oil, these all have the wrong ratio of omega 6 to omega 3. And the issue there is it's getting incorporated into your cellular membranes and making your neurons less effective in your brain and throughout your body. And as you can imagine, as you have systemic inflammation, that makes you not feel so good. Like right now, I have allergies going because it's been very windy and dry in the Las Vegas area, and the trees are releasing their pollen right now. So it's resulting in bad sleep for me. My energy levels are down. I'm a little foggy. Part of that could be the antihistamines that I took. But, when I think of like systemic levels of inflammation and these environmental factors, what better now to be more aware of what's going on than allergy season? I mean, you got these environmental, they're not toxins, but they create a lot of inflammation in your body. So I got rid of seed oils 2 years ago and I felt so much better. If you look on packages of so many of the foods that are in your cupboard or in your grocery store, almost all of these foods have seed oils in them. It's crazy. Like look at almost any chip out there, even if they're marketed as healthy, they most likely have canola or sunflower seed oil in them. There are some brands that are catching on and putting uh, avocado oil in them, for example, which is much better. But there's so many things that you can do to improve your brain health, and I think that over the long term, what we're going to see, bringing it back to alpha peak levels, is like it really will reflect how good your peak alpha levels are. Because if you get reduced inflammation in your brain, the peak alpha levels are going to go up. If you get better sleep, the peak alpha levels are going to go up. If you get a better routine where you are engaged and happy to be frank, your peak alphas are going to levels are going to go up. So this is really like a stethoscope to track how well your daily routines are improving things like peak alpha levels, which is reflected in how good you feel, how motivated you feel, and how much energy you have to accomplish these goals that I've been talking about. Can you get rid of plastic once it is in the body? Yes. And that's the good news is that people that are getting good sleep, the sleep will clear out the plastic in your body. Exercise will clear out the plastic. And that was one of the questions that I had about the study is that it doesn't necessarily mean that plastics cause the dementia. It could mean that people with dementia weren't as good about clearing out the plastics. We know that Alzheimer's dementia, they're starting to call it like diabetes type 3 because of the fact that if you have a lot of blood sugar spikes throughout the day, that leads to stress and accumulation of plaques in the brain. So if you've not been good with your diet over the years, you're way more susceptible to developing dementia. And part of that is your vascular system um, has been damaged from the high sugar levels. So that could, be a runaway effect. Are your blood vessels damaged because your diet isn't good? And does that make you less able to clear out the microplastics and the toxins at night during sleep? So, going back to the basics, getting good sleep, having a good diet, those can help clear out the microplastics. And if they don't, it can be sort of like a runaway effect. You accumulate more microplastics, It worsens your vasculature, makes the problem that much worse. And, it gets worse and worse as you get into dementia. So, um, you know, attacking the issue from both angles, getting rid of microplastics in your diet and in your water supply, but also doing the happy, healthy activities like improving your sleep and diet are going to be so important as well. So microplastics, I'm getting fluoride out of my water. I think that having a regular sleep schedule is so important, and then structuring your day so that this all can be optimized. The stroboscopic light stimulation still needs to be replicated and published under peer review for human studies. They definitely saw that exposure to 40 hertz flashing lights, like I discussed in my Neurovisor video, does activate the immune system in rats to clear out beta amyloid plaques, which are indicative of Alzheimer's dementia. Now, in humans, they have early evidence that it is improving their cognition. It improves their word recall. It improves their quality of life cognitively. And there's early results there, but they need to, finish the trial through the MIT study and officially publish those results. And it would be nice if that could be replicated as well. But that might be an additional thing that you can do if you're already, getting really concerned about dementia, or you have people in your family that had dementia and you want to do everything possible. I'm not going to sit here and say it's FDA approved, but there's some pretty strong evidence that could be helpful. And as you see in my Neurovisor videos, there's actually a lot of other benefits to stroboscopic light stimulation. Not only potentially turning on these immune system of your brain and clearing out plaques and things like microplastics and other things that are accumulated from the environment, but also getting you out of rigid thought patterns. It's thought that that's one of the reasons why psychedelics are really helpful for people, because people get stuck in rigid thought patterns. And the psychedelics actually light up and connect different areas in different parts of the brain. And what that does is help you see things from different perspectives. So the idea is that with stroboscopic light stimulation, it actually shows a similar indicator called the brainwave variability. Brainwave variability is how much variability there is in your brainwaves. And both stroboscopic light stimulation and psychedelics demonstrate the ability to do that. So it might be another something that if you're either stuck in chronic depression and you have obsessive thinking about something that you can't get your mind off of, the stroboscopic light stimulation can definitely help, as well as it might have some age-related benefits as well. But isn't that peak alpha graph super interesting? I mean, man, you can really see right there that it's tracking with age. And as you get your peak alpha levels higher, it definitely reflects a rejuvenation of your brain for better focus, cognition, and word recall, things like that, which I think all correlate with better decision-making as well, which, as we know, is so important in adult life. Speaking of sorry, everybody. Speaking of improved decision making, is anybody out there still drinking alcohol on a regular basis? Like, is anybody struggling with alcohol? I cut out alcohol like 2 years ago, and it's been a total game changer. And I can tell you why. Lee Nash has 40 hertz strobe light going right now as you listen to this lecture. One or two drinks per week from Olivier. One of the brutal things about alcohol is that we don't realize how many days it can affect us. It's not just the day after where you have like this disruption in neurotransmitter balance between glutamate and GABA, like I talked about with the fluoride levels. That tends to be what causes the anxiety the next day that's associated with your hangover. Part of that is dehydration, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that your neurotransmitter balance is messed up the next day. But as we get older, as you notice, hangovers last longer and longer. And there's like this mild hangover effect because, not only does it disrupt your neurotransmitter balance, but as we know, it disrupts your sleep as well, keeps you from getting into REM sleep. which is why you have like a big rebound in dreams. So like if you drink one night and you sleep, you're kind of just out, right? People don't usually dream very much the night of drinking, but then the night after, they have this REM rebound and they're dreaming all night. So you don't have that healthy balance of deep sleep to REM sleep, which messes things up. And is one of the reasons why the effects of alcohol don't just carry on to the next day. They actually happen for like half the week, like 3 to 4 days, even just a couple of drinks. And so if you're feeling low and sluggish and not motivated to accomplish your goals, man, alcohol is just shooting yourself in the foot. And I'm sorry to say it because I enjoyed drinking here and there. I think that at one point it was just getting to be too much, especially I think the thing that changed me was like when my daughter was born and I just realized that I needed to be present and at my 100% capability every day that I could be. And I knew that alcohol, after reading all these scientific studies and learning about the brain over the years, was causing me to be sluggish, not only the day after, but for many days after. You might notice that, like, if you're a weekend warrior and you tend to just drink on the weekends, Monday, Tuesday, you are just sluggish. Like, you think it's like, oh, I'm back at work. Like, I'm sad. Like, I don't want to be at work. But part of that is like, it's the lingering effects of alcohol from the weekend. Instead of recharging your batteries on the weekend, you were depleting them. And now, like, the irony is that you're actually recharging your batteries on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because you're getting better sleep and not drinking alcohol. And by Thursday, Friday, you feel great. It's like, wow, I'm so excited that it's the weekend. But it's the fact that you have been drinking the last couple of days that gets you so excited. You actually like feel better because you've been getting better sleep. And then you repeat the cycle because you're like, wow, it's the end of the week. Time to party, time to drink over the weekend. And that's going to repeat the cycle. Yeah, Olivia. Yeah, you see the effect 2 to 3 days afterwards. Track your peak alpha levels, man. You'll see it. You'll see it change with the alcohol consumption. Any other burning questions? I'm gonna get going here pretty soon. I got a lot of work to do. I'm working on a couple of different videos. Got the Primal Edge program starting tonight. If you guys still want to join, there's still a couple of seats available. Just message me. Most of you probably gotten emails promoting the Primal Edge program. We've got we've got like 8 people in there so far, so it's going to be a great group. So love to get a couple more people in there. Going to be great group calls, and really excited to start. Raj, any thoughts on moderate THC consumption and long-term cognitive functioning? Whew, going down a rabbit hole there. THC. I do see patients. I see patients in Nevada and Virginia through Teladoc right now. I'm going to be setting up my private practice here pretty soon, but my medical licenses are in Virginia and Nevada. Thanks, Olivier. Mercy. Lay Nash, I don't drink. What happens to chronic drinkers? Do they stop having REM sleep? Yes. I mean, the REM sleep is pretty inhibited. They're not getting refreshed at night. And there's so many systemic effects all throughout the body that happens with alcohol over time. Their literal brain architecture gets changed over time, which is why you can die from drinking withdrawal if you like are a chronic drinker and you just stop drinking. It can be one of the most dangerous things that you can do because you can go into seizures because their glutamate GABA balance has been messed up over the years. Gianluca, I drink very little, just socially sometimes. Would the effect of alcohol be the same for different people? And also, if it's a sporadic one drink every now and then, or it depends on how much. It definitely is dose dependent. So one drink here and there is not terrible. I'd say the main thing is like try not to drink right before you go to bed because the more that you can put it away from sleep time, the better your body is going to be able to clear it out so that you're able to sleep better afterwards. And then the other thing is to hydrate after. So there's going to be big issues. Am I a YouTube partner? Yes, I'm a YouTube partner. Pope Manning. You're talking about like AdSense from YouTube? Going back to THC, so Raj, so in psychiatry, one of the main arguments against THC was this issue with putting people more at risk for schizophrenia. And originally I was like, okay, well, if you don't have a family history of schizophrenia, you're probably not going to develop schizophrenia from THC use, and then it might be okay. I think it's better than alcohol if you're to do something every day. But the problem with THC that I came to learn later, they became more and more apparent. The problem with THC is that it's actually a dopamine stimulator. And people don't realize this. Like, yeah, it has the psychedelic effects, but it actually affects dopamine in your brain as well. And this ties in so well with what we're talking about with like Primal Edge Challenge and, structuring your life so that you can maximize dopamine supply. You want to recharge on the weekends, get all your dopamine back so that you can, you know, have a bunch of dopamine for the week to work hard and achieve your goals. And the problem is that if you're smoking THC all weekend or become a daily chronic user, those dopamine receptors do downregulate from the THC. We used to think that it was just like cocaine or Adderall that caused that. Maybe less so Adderall because it's a controlled release for ADHD, but that's one of the arguments against it is that. And then, it ties into like screen exposure for kids, that type of thing. Anything that releases a bunch of dopamine without much of an effort to achieve the reward is going to downregulate those dopamine receptors and make it more difficult for you to concentrate. So what people notice is that when they first start using THC, it's like, it's kind of fun, they use it to relax during the day. But THC stays in your system for like 12 to 24 hours. So what people notice is that after they smoke at night, when, in the morning, they feel okay because the THC is still in your system. But by the afternoon, as the THC is getting processed out, it's not affecting dopamine receptors anymore, and their concentration drops in the afternoon because their dopamine receptors are used to having that THC in their system. So as the THC gets cleared out, that's what causes the cravings. That's what causes them to want to smoke more. That's what causes them to need to smoke to focus. There was a guy back in the 70s, Terrence McKenna, who I thought was just this great orator and really a poet in the way that he spoke. And I think Terrence had a lot of great ideas about various aspects of humanity. And I still enjoy listening to him lecture, but he was like a huge THC user, right? And I remember him saying in one of his lectures, like, THC gives me energy. Like when I smoke, like I feel so much better and I accomplish all these tasks. Like people, his criticism was that people saw people that use THC every day as being lazy. But I think what he said was when I smoke THC, like I get this surge of energy and I, chop wood. And I think back to like what he said and like, it hurts me to say it, but I think that Terrence didn't realize that he was addicted to the THC. That because his dopamine receptors were downregulated, he needed to constantly consume THC in order to be able to focus, for better or worse. He was still obviously very high functioning, and you can be very high functioning on THC, but it's probably not going to help you operate at 100% when it comes to accomplishing goals, and you're relying upon it. So if you don't get that THC supply during the day, you're going to feel really bad, especially if you're a regular user. And people that say that THC isn't physiologically addictive don't know what they're talking about, because THC withdrawal causes body aches, irritability, low mood. They say it's psychological and not biological, but those of you that have been listening to my channel and learning understand that the psychology is intimately related to the biology. It goes both ways. Neurotransmitters are biological, but they're psychological at the same time. And if you're downregulating dopamine receptors, you're having a biological effect that's affecting the psychological effect. So I could go down that rabbit hole all day. That's my spiel about THC. It's really sad because it would be great to have a good alternative to alcohol, but at the same time, like you're definitely going to become dependent on it if you're a daily user. If you use it more than like once or twice a week, you're going to start getting sucked down that rabbit hole. And again, even if you're using it on the weekends, it's kind of like the alcohol thing. Like the way that I think about it is are you recharging your dopamine on weekends or are you depleting it? And if you're doing things like smoking alcohol, consuming THC through, vape pens, blunts, any of the other methods, even edibles, or consuming alcohol, you're depleting your neurotransmitter supplies. They're going to make it more difficult for you to do the difficult things that I know all of you are doing every week to, accomplish your goals out there. Battle for your brain. What are my thoughts on neuro rights and cognitive liberty as it pertains to non-consensually BCI implants or brain data extraction? What rights should patients be having to access their own brain data? Well, a lot of this has been laid out in policies that have been already implemented in Colorado and California. The Neuro Rights Foundation has been working on that. So if you want, take a look at my podcast I did, medical officer of the Neuro Rights Foundation, Dr. Sean Pazowski. We talked all about that. So I do think that the neurotech companies should be put under the umbrella of privacy laws that say that they can't sell their people's brain data to third parties, or use it in any way that the people are not aware of. So there needs to be like transparency. All right, everybody. Sorry about my allergies today. I'm sure that me blowing my nose and speaking in a nasally term wasn't the best to listen to, but hopefully you got some good information. If you guys are interested in the Primal Edge program, definitely message me. We're going to get started tonight and go all week. So I'm really excited about that. And this was cool. I know it's like in the middle of a Monday, but still quite a few people showed up and I appreciate your questions. So really great chatting with you, and I'll see you next time. We'll definitely do this a couple times a month now. Adios.